So what is leadership coaching? What's executive coaching? I know we've talked a lot about it on the podcast, but it's probably one of those things that you need to experience to understand. We've had some of the top executive coaches in the world on the podcast, and Jennifer Garvey-Berger, episodes 354 and 355, and Tiffany Gaskell in episodes 393 and 394. And yet I still don't feel those conversations capture the transformational impact of coaching. And obviously it's very important to me because it's the core of what I do through my work with coaches is the executive coaching. And we were at the leadership retreat that I hosted recently, and I had taken a group of leaders that were made up of coaches, administrators, business leaders, and we explored the mindsets and practiced the skills of leadership coaching over a weekend. And that was really, really powerful and yet unique for most of the people at the retreat. And many of them actually encouraged me to do a podcast on leadership coaching, executive coaching, because they find that the skills and the mindsets behind it are so applicable to coaching. So rather than just talk about it, me, Nate, and Betsy get on here and talking about it, we said, how about I give you all at least the experience of listening in on a coaching conversation. Now the purpose of this is really, to understand how powerful questions, reflections, and holding space with silence can lead to transformational conversations. However, in the course of my coaching call with our volunteer coach, John Newman-Gonchar, who is a Division I head women's volleyball coach at the University of New Mexico, we happened to explore a very interesting topic on coaching, rediscovering your joy as a coach. And I say it's interesting because it's a topic relevant to many in coaching. And John was a phenomenal coachee, right? First off, he showed up, was willing to put himself out there. I never met him before, all right? And secondly, he showed up and was truly vulnerable, in my opinion, and worked really hard in this call. I gave him tough questions, and he was willing to do the uncomfortable work to think through these challenges. So a huge thanks to John. Like I said, never met him before, but he's a longtime listener to the podcast, a subscriber to the newsletter. And so he, a few months ago, I put up a notice in the newsletter asking for any volunteers, and he was like, put his hand up right away, and he was, I guess, one of the lucky ones to get selected for this coaching call. Anyways, I'm excited to share this with you. At the end of the day, when I got my executive coaching certification through Georgetown University, it was one of the most life-changing things for me. And if it's something that you want to explore yourself, like growing these skills of powerful questions, deep listening, and holding space, you should definitely consider applying for our TOC retreat, Cultivating Leadership Through the Power of Coaching. It's an incredibly relaxing and recharging weekend. At the same time, you get to learn how to coach and be coached. And you can apply at tocculture.com/retreat. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can fill out an application for that, and we'll put a link in the details of this episode, or you can email me at jp@tocculture.com with any questions that you have. Welcome to the Coaching Culture Podcast. My name is JP Nerbunn, and I'm just here today with our guest, my coachee for the day. The mission of this podcast is to help you become a better leader and build a better team culture. To get the notes to this and every episode of the podcast, all you need to do is subscribe to the Team Culture Toolbox. It's the TOC weekly newsletter. There's a link in the details of this episode, or you can do so at tocculture.com. Also, check out Betsy's blog on Substack at Betsy Butterick.
Coach, this is a really special space to be in with coaches that I get to share, which is these coaching calls. And so I appreciate you stepping into this space here. And as we kind of get started, you've come with something that you wanted to work on, and you wanted my assistance, my help, to kind of walk through the challenge that you're struggling with here. Just before we kind of get into it, is there anything that you kind of feel like, you need at this moment just to be fully present?
I'm pumped to be on. I'm pumped to share with you, and I'm pumped to learn from you and with you. And I think for me to be fully present, I just need to dive in head first, and that's kind of how I always operate. So I think that would be all I need.
Okay. Well, good. All right, Coach. So what is the thing that you wanted some support on to work with today?
Yeah, I think one of the big topics I'm constantly struggling with is how do I balance all that I have going on. I'm not unlike any other coach out there that has a family, that has a career that they're passionate about, that has a wife, or a partner that they're trying to be great for, and a team they're trying to be great for, and kids they're trying to be great for, and Meanwhile, balancing a competitive career path that is, hey, there's expectations. I hesitate to use the word pressures, but I think that is a word that you could throw in there, and you're trying to balance all of these things. And sometimes the last thing that I focus on is my own joy in it, and my own process that says, hey, I dove into this headfirst 20 years ago, and it was because I absolutely fell in love with the career and the passion that I had for the sport of volleyball and for coaching. And sometimes I feel like that gets missed pretty heavily on my end, and I feel like as I miss on that, I can begin to fumble other areas of my responsibilities. And so I think that was one thing I really wanted to open up a conversation with you about, just someone that I really admire and I really look up to. And so yeah, I think that's where this was. Yeah. I was hoping we could go.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing there, Coach, is that, you've got a lot of priorities or things that are really important to you, and balancing, being a partner, being a father, being a coach, like at this level of coaching that you're at, it's not easy. You recognize that you're not the only one in this. And yet for you, like, coaching was such a passion. It was such a source of joy and happiness for you. And yet it doesn't feel like that at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah. I think it's hard to, it's a struggle to say that. It really is. I almost feel a little emotional response to that I've got 17 athletes that are looking for their leader, that are looking for their coach to show up every day as the best version of myself, as what can I bring to the table and what do I bring? And then there's 3 little kids, there's, at home, and there's so I absolutely would say that that's accurate, that I want
to. Yeah, you said there's a bit of an emotional response to that. What's that emotion that you felt when you kind of reflected on that?
Almost like a disappointment, almost like, hey, I'm not quite meeting any of those 3 bowling balls that I'm trying to juggle. Almost like, hey, one of them is disappointed that I'm not able to uplift it as well as I would like to, as well as I know that I can. And maybe there's just there's a fear of, hey, am I doing this well enough? In all 3 of these areas of juggling. So maybe the emotion, it comes from, is it a disappointment in myself, or the disappointment that I'm letting other people down, potentially? And I don't ask my team, hey, if I let you down today, I don't necessarily ask my wife that. I don't necessarily ask my kids that. But I think there's an internal struggle. There's an internal pull to want to make sure that I'm meeting them with my best and showing up for them every day in ways that are meaningful and impactful.
What feels more true for you, that you're disappointing yourself or you're disappointing others?
Potentially disappointing others. That maybe there's that I have the self-awareness to say, hey, I don't know, like I'm getting pulled in 100 different directions right now, and I don't know if I'm at my best right now at practice, or I don't know if when I'm at the dinner table, and I've got my phone buzzing in this hand and my watch is going off in that hand, and it's like, man, why am I just putting that away for an hour? And and it's just, there's not a whole lot of boundaries sometimes, and I think the more boundaryless I get, just the further distracted I get in any one of those arenas, and maybe that's where there's a disappointment that I'm letting these people down. But I'm also, most important is right here with who I'm with, and if that's with my team and I'm in practice, or if that's when I'm at home, then that's where I need to be. And I think there's a little bit of a combination of self-discipline, like, hey, I'm better than this, I can put my phone away, people can wait an hour.
Yeah, it's this not giving people your best, and you're disappointing them, but there's something in there that still feels like it's real for you that you disappoint yourself. But there's a value of giving people your best, I'm hearing. Like, what's most important about giving people your best?
I think I was trusted to lead a team. I was trusted to take a team and a program in a certain direction, and that was just a life, I don't know about a life goal. It kind of happens as you're an assistant coach. You go, hey, eventually I would like to be a head coach. And so when I felt as if, hey, the timing was right and the school and the fit was right, it was, hey, here's my next journey, here's my next challenge, and then diving in headfirst into that I wanted to be great for that team. And then before I knew it, my life had children, and there was a responsibility to make sure that, hey, I was being a father that was giving his best to his kids all the time. And so I think that's the pull that I feel like I'm constantly trying to navigate is, hey, am I doing right in each of these three areas? And I'm sure there's more areas, there's my own health, there's my own mental engagement and feeling like I'm here and I'm present, that allows me to be great in those areas. I feel like there's a bigger picture in there too, but I think I'm not sure I'm not sure I'm quite putting my finger on it yet, but
yeah, but you said you've been entrusted, like you've been like trusted with this team, you've been trusted with these kids, and so you feel this responsibility to give them your best.
Yes. No, I absolutely feel as if that's that is what drives me. And I think I get up in the morning and I go, hey, I've got this team, I've got practice, we've got a match, we're preparing, we're recruiting to keep building, and that never ends. And then there's the, hey, I'm entrusted with this family, and I'm given this opportunity to help make an amazing family at home. And I think there's a level of, hey, responsibility to those areas.
Yeah, I can resonate with that, and definitely really appreciate and respect it a lot. Like that you're very aware of, this responsibility, how others are counting on you, and this desire to give them your best. How do you know what your best is, though?
Yeah, I don't think I have a quantifiable way of measuring it. I think I probably know from, I think there's days that you walk out of the gym with our team and I could go, man, that was awesome. It wasn't just that because we performed at a really high level or the execution was off the charts. It was just, hey, we were learning, we were growing. I'm watching players, work through their failures. I'm watching players work through these things, and I go, I never gave, I never backed down, and that's maybe just a life principle that I follow. Hey, I don't back down. I was never the best player, the best coach in the room. I was going to learn. I was going to figure it out. I was going to outwork. I was going to out prepare people. That was just going to be my approach to it. And I think at home, maybe that's, where it's like, hey, I really, hey, are my kids, are they working through difficult things? Are they learning how to navigate their emotions? Are they learning how to navigate being told, no, we're not having dessert before dinner, or, you're only having this, or, hey, we're not going outside 5 minutes before, we're going upstairs for bath time, that type of thing. And I think I'm trying to find how would I measure, hey, my best for them. I think, hey, if I'm patient and I'm in it with them and I'm at their level, with where they're at, meeting them halfway, I think that would probably be a measure of like, hey, yeah, that was a great day. Like, hey, there was, even if there was a meltdown, there was still some processing, and I was able to help the littlest one to work through something. Then that's great. The 8-week-old, I think there's just a measurement of just, hey, is he sleeping? Is he having the bottle? Is he doing all that? But yeah, I think with the other two, it's really hard. I don't know. And then obviously as a partner, as a spouse, I want to make sure that I'm fully present, and I know that is an area that, hey, that is my expectation for myself there. I can come up short quite often in that space, pretty often. Just, hey, these other areas are pulling, and my expectation for myself there is I know that that's an area that I don't meet my own expectation when it comes to being a partner, when it comes to being a great partner for somebody else.
Yeah, you've got really high standards for yourself, Coach. Like, you've got really high expectations in all these areas. And, things that I'm hearing that are really important. Well, one is like this, just, you're not going to back down. You're going to give it, you're just going to keep working at it. So like, kind of like a real effort into these is a standard, as well as being present. You talked a lot about that so far today, which is just being like, you want to be present. You want to give a lot of effort to these people, whoever they are. Like, those would be two big things to knowing that you're giving your best. What do you need to be able to give your best to these people?
I think one of the first things that comes to mind is I've gotten to this point with recruiting where I want recruits that make it really easy. And I think I learned this from you guys that make it easy. And it resonated for me. I want recruits to make it easy to work hard. I want recruits to make it easy for me to stay up till midnight watching film and trying to help them with their game. And hey, I'm going to come in tomorrow with a couple of key notes, that really help you with your development and your process. And I want for my team to be. I need them to be just as in it with me, and I need a team with full commitment. And I think for us that is, hey, they're showing up, understanding that there's no ordinary moments. There's no like, hey, I'm just kind of going to go through the motions today. And I think that's what I've always felt with our best teams. The last few years, our best teams were right there in it with us. I mean, as a coaching staff, we meet every morning. We have a daily huddle, and we kind of have a debrief at the end of the day. Hey, what do we got to focus on tomorrow after training? And I think one of the things that sticks out to me is like, man, it's really easy to do that when our team is all in. And so I need that from my team. I need to feel like we are at our best, that we're all bringing whatever that best is today, that we're all bringing it, and we're showing up with some passion for that. And I think we've talked about this concept of, hey, we want really we need low maintenance players that are super high output, because our coaching staff is kind of made up that way. I want my coaches that are on staff that I've hired are high output people. They're going to give you what they've got all the time. And I think when I don't know how that, JP, I guess that would be really, I don't know how that shows up at home. Like, hey, what do I need from my wife? What do I need from my children? I don't know if I ever really thought of it that way. And maybe that's a deeper like soul searching. Like, I don't know what I need at home as much as I know that one of my brain never stops on volleyball. It never stops on coaching, never stops on recruiting, player development, team culture. Those things just don't stop. And I think that's just how I've wired myself. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But so I guess I've never really put a finger to it, what I need at home or what I need from my children. That feels weird to say even. I don't know how that comes across, but I don't know what that means at home. But I know for volleyball and for the coaching side of it, that's what I know. That's what that means for me is when I think of my team and where they're at commitment-wise.
Yeah, that's kind of maybe what you need from others is kind of maybe how you took that question you went to. But which is interesting, I like that. It's very interesting. You want people that are high output but low maintenance, and yet what do you need internally, right? Mm-hmm. Not externally from others. What do you need internally to be at your best?
Maybe what comes to mind is when I feel I don't know. What's coming to mind as I think through that is for me to be at my best. I need to feel connected to the moment. I need to feel some level of like emotional engagement with what's happening, and I need to feel like that what I'm doing matters, and that if my commitments are aligned, with what I want to get out of that day, or hey, how I'm going to approach my team that day, and my values are aligned with who I want to be. That and not that they fluctuate, but I think some days are harder than others to stay focused on. This is how we're going to coach. This is how I'm going to be with my team. Hey, we're coming off of a really tough week of practice, and then we had 2 tough matches, and they didn't go the way we wanted them to. Am I going to show up all of a sudden this different monster and coming after, like, no way, that's just not who I am. And so as long as I'm aligned with my actions and my words, and there's some, aligned with the congruency with my behavior as I walk into practice, then I feel great. Then I can. It doesn't matter if we've lost 9 in a row, or if we, if we've just won 4 in a row, which has happened in both situations. And so I've been there. I think there's so much of the outside noise that comes from being in my position currently. At least I feel in my experience. Of being in this current situation with NCAA athletics and where's college coaching going, and where with recruiting and with players and teams and the transfer portal and how all that impacts stuff, that every day when I walk through the front door, I mean, that stuff comes with me. And as much as I would like to say, hey, it stays in the car or it stays back at the gym, it doesn't. It comes with me. And so when I think about walking through the door, I want to be aware that, hey, what I'm just experienced, what I just had happen at a match or at a practice, it can stay there. But maybe what I need is to go give my kids a hug. I walk in the door and that's the first thing that happens, and I try to connect at home. And I think that's when I get that, or I know that I need that. I know that I need it, like physically, emotionally, spiritually. I need a hug, from my kids, like that shores up a lot of things for me. That's what I know that I need. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm hearing there, coach, is like this word alignment. Just keep coming back to it. Like you talked about purpose and living to your values, and kind of going back to like, you completed that pre-call questionnaire, and you talked about one of the big challenges is just this lack of joy or happiness in coaching. Oh, and that kind of like to feel that joy, to feel that emotional engagement, as you said, it's about like, I don't know, walking in purpose, walking in alignment with your values. And you're in a unique space, right? Like you've got younger kids. And so that's new, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm probably a few years ahead of you in the kids things. And I can tell you like, you're like in really, really green space there. Right. And at the same time, like you said, college athletics is in like this whole new space, and you've been in coaching for 20 plus years. And yet this all feels very new in coaching. And so it can be very hard to like navigate that. And so you're starting, what I'm hearing a little bit of this, and tell me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong in this, but it's like, you feel a little bit out of alignment in these spaces. You're not fully aligned in coaching. That's creating the stress, and it brings you, when you're feeling like that coaching stress is pulling you out of alignment from who you want to be when you walk in that door.
I would very much agree with that. I think there's a lot of accuracy in this idea, or in this concept, that there's a lot of newness. We're navigating a brand new infant. We're navigating, changing schools for the older, my oldest, who's now going to be in first grade at a brand new school. And so there's just the life stress of just, hey, there's a lot of moving parts at home. And then you go to work, and, oh, you found out now that, hey, there's a new NIL and rev share model. There's some updates to the transfer portal. There's current challenges just with operating a team in that space, with recruitment, and just, hey, how are you handling the influx and the outflux of players, and managing rosters. And so I think that's a really accurate statement, that there's a lot of newness, there's a lot of greenness to it, and trying to just navigate one of those spaces would be a lot, and navigating all of those spaces is even more. And so I think that is that is my personal challenge, for sure.
Yeah, the newness of these spaces, the uncertainty. Yeah, that is a lot. That's a lot to carry for anyone. Like you said, one of those, but now you're having to take on two big aspects of life.
Yeah, I would certainly. I think you've hit it pretty good there.
When you talked about alignment, emotional engagement, whether it's on the court or at home, what's that feeling when you think about that moment of just what does that look like for you, just to be fully aligned, fully engaged emotionally with your athletes or with your kids?
Yeah, I think there's joy. I think there's and again, joy doesn't always, in my opinion, mean that it's fun. It doesn't always mean that it's easy. I see joy. I see that, hey, that's what you got into this for. That's what drives you. We do an exercise of what's your why, with our program. And I think that would be my why is hey, when you're aligned and you feel like there's a connection, and there's this really powerful reach that you have with how you're connecting with your athletes, and how you're living your life at home, and being a dad and being a partner. And I would think there's a lot of joy in that. I would think that level of alignment would bring a lot of value. It'd be impactful personally for me. It would feel very rewarding.
Yeah. And so you're talking about finding this joy. So when it relates to our call today, this coaching call, what would success look like for this call for as you try to rediscover joy?
I think it was a process of opening some of these doors that I've never really opened, that I've never really challenged myself to think on, and give myself some, I wouldn't use the word grace, but maybe something to say like, hey, there's a lot that is happening and under the self-awareness that I think I have is only this much. When it gets exposed and gets communicated about with someone outside of myself, that there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to I'm going to use the word navigate. And I think if I'm looking to be me at my best, for my team, for my family, for my wife, I think of, okay, there's even more self-awareness that I want to have. And there's more awareness to what is going to allow me to be at my best and what do I need. And those are things that I think I need to chew on a little bit more and kind of like unpack and feel that I can identify those areas, because maybe that would be, for me, success is, hey, can I bring even a higher level of self-awareness to how it is that I want to show up?
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. That's really great. I think what you're talking about there is, hey, I want to find joy, but to find that, I need to probably grow my own awareness of what's really going on for me and pulling me away from that.
I think so. I think I have a pretty narrow scope when I just look at it through my own lens, and then kind of broadening the to the macro. Boy, there's a lot more to unpack, and there's even more going on than I'm even realizing. As you said, like, hey, there's three. In my opinion, I have three giant bowling balls that I'm trying to juggle, and that's the family that maybe that's my children, that's my being a great partner, and then being a great coach. But I also have a staff, and my staff is under my wing, and they're people that I've brought here from across the country, and I'm responsible for their experience too. It's not completely up to me, but it is up. I'm a huge part of their experience here, and I want them to feel like they're growing, and that's a whole nother piece in all this. So I think there's a lot to think about now that I just kind of opened up another channel there. But yeah.
Yeah. You just added another one there. We got the coaching staff as well too. That team as well too. How would you know you found your joy again in coaching and in life?
I think as I take a step back and I think about it, I would probably know that I found it when as we kind of touched on earlier, there's alignment. There's a feeling that, hey, we're firing on all cylinders. And it's not that something can't get a branch in the spokes of the wheel, so to speak. But hey, that can happen. But still there's navigating, there's problem solving, or as we say, solution engineering on our end as coaches, and how are we going to navigate that? And at home, how are we doing, how are we helping our kids, and how am I being great for my wife? And I think when there's joy for me, I think there's a lightheartedness. I think I'm serious about what I do. I really do try to not be serious about who I am. I try to be really aware, like, hey, that was a funny joke, I can laugh at that. If we're in practice, even though, hey, I think I'm a pace setter. I think I'm trying to set the course for a team that has not always historically been a top 3 or 4 team in the conference, and we've managed to finish there 4 out of the last 5 years. Like, there's a reason that I think I've got to do what I do and how I do it. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that I think there's been some level of formula to it, and there's been some intentionality behind it. And so I think, there's times where I'm like, man, that was like, I got to lighten up. Like that was actually really funny. And listen, this isn't for a lot of these athletes. This is just a little blip on their radar. They're going to be doctors, or they're going to be engineers or architect, whatever they're doing. And hey, this should be fun, like at the end of the day. And I'm hoping, just to kind of just to give you a little preview, like I'm hoping this season is, or my own preview, I'm hoping we build that out. I'm hoping we build out opportunities for these joyous moments to happen harmoniously with each other, and as a team and as a staff. And obviously there needs to be the same level of intentionality put into my home life, with being a partner and a dad. But I do think that would mean success for me, or that would mean that, hey, I'm finding joy.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about, like, you preface it all with like, there's seriousness, there's an intensity, but then there's almost kind of like this, like, the joy would be having that and this lightheartedness and this fun and this, sense of humor. And it feels like the lightheartedness, the fun, the sense of humor, that seems like to go out the window first for you.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a side of me that wants to just push and push and push and push, and not that you can't push and have fun at the same time. I think that's obviously there's the art of being a coach. There's the art of coaching and navigating a team and a successful season. But I think for me, I can get caught up in the details. I mean, we can debate as a staff an hour on just the format of one drill in a 2-hour practice, but we're focused on 1 hour on one piece, and how are we going to rotate, and what's the point structure going to be, and what are the constraints that we're going to maybe put in place here. And it's like, hey, let's go play volleyball. Like, this is a fun game, And I think so. I think that would be accurate. That I want to find a balance, and I want that joy to come from having a balance. That hey, we are pushing. We want to be contending for championships. We want to be contending for top 3 finishes and top 2 finishes. And we're committed to competitive excellence at a really high level, but we also understand that that I have to understand that driving this ship does not mean that we take the joy out of it, and that we take the fun or the spirit of why we got into volleyball in the first place out of it. And I want to be well aware of that in that process.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like, where are moments where you as a coach have embodied this really well? Is there a time where you can think of where you had that seriousness and intensity, but you also had the spirit? The spirit was strong with you, the lightheartedness, the fun, like, because I see like that when you talk about being your best for the team, like,
yeah,
I see that for you. But like, is there a moment that you can can think of?
Yeah, just we just wrapped up our summer camps, and so we had almost 1,000 young volleyball players come through our doors. We had 7 straight days, and there's about 150 athletes that come in throughout the days, and so we had a crazy sock day, we had a crazy hair day in there, and I'm meeting with our staff, and we're talking about the daily plan, but yet we're kind of poking fun at our socks, and we're our hair. I don't have a ton, whatever's going on, but we're having fun with it, and it's lighthearted, and the team's laughing, and we're laughing, and we're excited for the day, and there's a connection, there's an emotional alignment, with what's happening, and I think that brings a lot of fulfillment for me. Obviously, then we get in, obviously then there's 2, fast forward 2 months from now, and we're going to be in the heart of our season. Where matches and the outcomes are going to determine playoff and implications, and I want to be self-aware enough to know, hey, that those days can be just as fun. We can have a crazy sock day in the middle of the season. We can have a crazy hair day, and I think just giving myself the permission to say, like, hey, these outcomes, yes, they matter. Yes, of course, there's career implications, right? Like that, contract years, non-contract years. Hey, it all matters, and moving a family of 5 across the country because we're too silly too often, I don't want to find myself on that side of the bridge. But at the end of the day, I got to remember that these things do add value to the players' experience, and I want to be a coach that, as you and Nate and Betsy talk about all the time. Hey, we want to, I think transformational coaching really resonates for me. That hey, 20 years from now, an athlete looks back and goes, man, I'm further along in life. I'm further along in my career as a family, a spouse, whatever it is. And I really look back on one of my formative years was with Coach John at UNM, and I think about that, and I think of all of the experiences that we hope to provide these athletes, and they look back and go, wow, I'm better because of it. And I think maybe that's my mantra. I'm better because of it. I'm better because I went through it. I'm better because we had these moments.
Yeah, no, I there's a couple of things that really resonate with me on that, Coach. And like, one is just this, first off, actually, the fact that you had 1,000 young athletes. I don't know. I would have found that pretty stressful. I don't know if that would have brought my best self, but it brought your best self, right?
It was
Having
a lot.
these athletes, this camp, my gosh, that would be stressful. And yet you kind of almost anticipate, well, there's summer me, and then there's in-season me, and in-season me, you don't see as your best self. You see all the little things, the pressures, the job, all those types of things really eating away at that best self. What is it about that summer you that enables that to happen? Like, what is it about that environment that enables that coach to emerge?
I think a part of it, I don't know. I was just thinking about, like, just as you said that, the summer self versus the the mid-season self, and I don't know. Part of it is we've got athletes from 6 years old all the way up to 18 at the camp, and so we're trying to make it really this fun, buzzy, vibey experience, and so there's just a way that you kind of hey, as you drive in that day, hey, I'm going to be overly animated today. I'm going to make sure that I'm really celebrating the small stuff. I'm going to give out a lot of high fives. And as I say this now, I think there's no reason that can't be the same way when you're in your Division I practice. And so I don't know. I guess as I think about it, I think I don't know other than the implications of winning and losing, and just the challenges of that, and the pressure and the fan email that comes in mid-season after a tough loss that tells me, hey, you shouldn't be the coach here. We should be moving on from you. All these things. And you're like, yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's not very easy. So thanks for the email. That really helped. I just think there's just those things start building up, and before you know it, you're watching, whether you're moving up in the rankings or moving down, and maybe you're staying the same. I don't know, but while those things are happening, there's a toll that it's taking on you, and that's when I feel like you show up and you're not. I'm not as joyous. These are hard days. These are hard moments, and I think, but for me to find the joy, it would probably be to go, hey, look, those are going to happen, whether or not I'm personally happy or not. Those moments are happening, and so might as well find my joy in that. And what does that look like, and what does that feel like? I think is really kind of what I'm getting my eyes open to on how to navigate that.
What's the downside of summer you, like this lighthearted, fun version of you as a coach? What's the downside to that coach?
Maybe that I let up too much, that I loosen the reins too much, that I let up myself, or I let up, not necessarily my team. I think, the expectations of how I want them to coach during these camps and these experiences, that doesn't change. I want them to be great leaders and mentors to these young women and young boys that come, young men that come to our camps. And, but I don't know, maybe that would be one that comes to mind. Like, hey, maybe I get too loose. Maybe I'm not holding myself to this high standard, and as far as whether that's preparation or that's just, hey, my interactions, my peer-to-peer interactions with all the coaches that we have. We bring in about 25 coaches, outside coaches, to run across. We have almost 14 courts, and so the summertime is we're putting on this incredibly, in my opinion, high vibe, high fun. I'm going to use the word fun, very engaging camps, and maybe the downside could be that I loosen the reins. I haven't thought about what that would look like. Like, hey, like, is there a downside?
You've never seen it in yourself? You've never seen this guy that just completely loosened the reins as a coach? Like, if you look over 20 years, have you ever been too fun?
I don't think so. No, unfortunately, for better or for worse, no, I don't think so. As an assistant coach, I do find that I had different interactions with players as an assistant coach. As the head coach, I'm the one telling you you're not starting. I'm the one telling you you're not traveling, you're not dressing. So I do think the interactions that I have changed. Whereas an assistant coach, I think I was always in every player's. When I got in the van, 7 players looked where I was going and they would jump to the van. Now every player looks what van I go into, and they're now trying to figure out which vans they're going to not be in, which is usually my van. And I don't think that's because any one reason other than, hey, it's really easy to like your assistant coach. It's really easy to love your assistant coach, especially I think we have a great staff here, and we work hard at that. And so I don't know. I do think, I think there's, as I've evolved in my head coaching role, I just say I get it, and now I can even poke fun at it. Hey, I know everyone's looking for my van. I'm the gray one right over there, and so I can kind of make it a little bit more lighthearted, when we're leaving for a trip or something like that. But
so it doesn't really bother you too much, yet at the same time you kind of, like, because you kind of think that, well, this is what comes to the territory. You become a head coach, and people aren't going to have that necessarily experience you in the same way as they experienced you when you were assistant. And yet I want to really focus on just to be more joyful. Like, if you were to bring that summer coach into the season, your season starts on Friday, right? Like, the pressure's on, here we go. Like, to be more joyful. If you were that more joyful self, to bring that summer self in there, that one that's integrated the seriousness and the fun, if you were to bring that into season, what would be some of the behaviors that you might demonstrate? What might you do? What might you say? How might you do those things? Well, if I was to come watch your practice, what would be some of those behaviors?
I think there'd be a lot more smiles. Not that there's frowns. I think there'd be a lot more smiles. There'd be a lot more
from you. I'm curious about from you.
From me. Yeah, totally. Okay. I think I think there'd be a lot more smiles. There'd be a lot more high fives. Not that I'm not, I think high fives are hey, it's not every 5 seconds I'm going to stop a drill just to give 6 high fives. But at the camp, that is very much me. I'm walking around. My coaches are coaching, and as little Mary and Sally and Janie come off the court, I'm giving them a high five, encouraging them. I'm celebrating everything they do. I think there's probably just I guess a light. I'm going to go back to this word. There's a lightheartedness. There's an easiness about it. Whereas I think we can get into the weeds of some of the systems work or technical or tactical work that we're doing, and it can get, this is how we're doing it. This is when we want to be, and not that I couldn't be lighthearted with that, but I would think that there's a level of seriousness that comes with implementing systems or implementing some tactics that you want to have. And I don't know, that would be very interesting for me to think on, is how would that look to bring the summer camp vibe to that style. And I'm not saying that it would be right or wrong. I just, in my experience, in my impression of it, those are very like, hey, those are sacred moments. Hey, we're going to talk about how we're doing these things. I want absolute alignment and clarity to what we're doing. And here's what it's going to do. Let's go execute. Let's go train this skill. Let's go train this tactic. Let's go train this system. And there's a side of me that thinks that has to be a series. And I don't know why. There's no rule book on it, so I don't know. But
the second you start to talk about tactics, Coach, you use the word, it's sacred. There's a seriousness. There's a focus, and yet, and so joy. What would it look like to be joyful in bringing tactics? Maybe it's not, smiles and crazy socks, but like, what would it look like to bring joy into that?
I think having the excitement, the enthusiasm towards it. I think having the energy, around it that makes us say this is how we separate ourselves. This is how we close the gap on the number one team in the conference. And I think that would bring me joy. I think that level of as we pursue excellence, here's what we're going to look at. This idea of the energy and the excitement and the enthusiasm that we can bring around this topic or this tactic. And I think that could be it.
I love that right there. Like, this is how we're going to go for it. This is how we're going to become the best team in the conference, right? There's a joy in that. And it's not downplaying at all, like winning or losing. I hear a lot of belief in that.
Yeah. That resonates for me. That sits. Yeah, that lands pretty well. A belief in what we're doing, a belief in how we're going to become the number one team. We open up most practices. I shouldn't say most. We must open up every practice with this, usually talking about how we're going to close the gap and why we're doing what we're doing today in training, and how we're going to go about tackling the day, whether it's a 90-minute session or a 2-hour session, 2 hour, 2.5 hour session. Here's what we're doing, and here's why we're doing it. And I think there's, like I said, there can become a seriousness to it. There can become a heaviness to it. And I like the word belief. Like, what about if there's just a tone of belief and that's that.
Yeah. What would be scariest for you about being this guy that smiles and high fives and you're easy, and yet these sacred moments, you just have excitement, energy, belief. You're talking about how this is how we're going to do it today. This is how we're going to do it this season. Like, what would be the most uncomfortable part about showing up that way on Friday and this season?
I think it would just be different. And I think I'm a very routine guy. I think or a routine coach. I think of myself as, hey, we do these things a certain way. There's an approach to it. There's a rhythm, a cadence to how we do things. And I think that would just be different. So I don't have a huge, there's the fear in it, I don't know. I think it would just take some bravery. It'd take a little bit of courage to step out and go, hey, I'm going to try to be uberly mindful that this is how I want to show up for the team. This is how I want to show up for myself, because I know that I want to have joy in what I'm doing, and I want to have conviction to that joy. Like, it's not just I don't want to just say it. Like, I want to walk into practice in November and think about this call in late July and go, hey, yeah, this is what I wanted to commit to this year. Is, hey, these wins and losses are going to happen. The career outcomes are going to be what they are, and that doesn't mean I'm going to back down from, hey, I'm going to write a really poor practice today, or hey, I'm not going to focus on film review, or we're not going to scout this opponent. That's not where I'm going with it. This is I'm gonna double down on my own personal joy, because I know that when I'm at my best with those things, there comes a pretty safe space for my athletes to do the same thing. And I happy athletes are better athletes, you know, and they compete harder and they play harder, and turns out that potentially results are better, you know. And so I think that could be a space that would be really fun for me.
Yeah. You see how it could be fun for you, and yet what would be kind of scary or difficult would be that's different. And you talked about like it pulled you out of rhythms, right, and out of routines. And what's important to you about those rhythms and those routines as a coach?
That there's been some level. Again, I'm as humble as I can be, in all humility. Some of those have had some success for us. Like, you know, some of it, and I'm not saying we've always been perfect or we're winning champion. That's not from that. I'm just, some of those ways that I've operated have given us, have provided us opportunities to win matches, have provided us opportunities to be successful. And it's not a win at all costs. That's definitely not how I operate. But I think there's a rhythm and a routine to how I've developed the teams, and there's a little bit of fear in that. Like, hey, if we throw off the recipe for this with too many ingredients, and hey, are we still going to get the cake at the end of the day? I don't know. There'd be a little scary for me. But at the end of the day, like I want more for myself, and I want more for the person that walks in the door to hug his 3-year-old kid. And sometimes I'm not finding that. So I'm totally open to being vulnerable in that space, to say, hey, I'm going to be a little brave. We're going to have a little bit more joy in this. And the way that I'm going to do that is these 3 or 4 things to bring that.
Yeah. So the scary part of like breaking from the rhythm, doing things differently is, well, we have been successful this way.
Yeah.
Right. Successful-ish. Right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
If you want to measure that.
Yeah.
And yet that way is costing me. This way that you're currently doing things is costing you. It's coming at a cost. There's
a tax. Yeah. There's a sales tax.
What does that cost?
I just don't, you know, I think part of it could be there's a seriousness and a heaviness that comes home, and that probably it comes home with me through the front door. There's a seriousness that walks through the door of the gym that maybe isn't as far reaching of an experience, because hey, I want my athletes to have the same joy that I want to have, and they're an incredible group. They're positive. They're fun to be around. They can be silly, you know, and that's where, hey, I don't let myself go too far down that road, because hey, I'm at the end of the day, I'm the captain of the ship, and we're getting on board and we're going this direction, and I don't want to lose sight of the mission or the vision that we're trying to put in place by overvaluing the silliness, or which I know we're not saying. I'd want to be very aware of where that line is for me personally.
Because going across that line would be really bad for you. Like if you're like, oh, we lost, and I wasn't serious enough. I was too lighthearted. I didn't, you know, I was almost too joyful.
Yeah. I would hate to, that doesn't, as you say it, that I would never want to have that be, you know, like, hey, we're going to reflect back on last week, and we were just, the reason why we lost 2 matches, you know, on the weekend was we were too joyful. No, but I do think it does cost us if we're not training at a high level, if we're not pushing the status quo, if we're being a little bit too, I'm just going to use the word silly in practice and trainings, then I do think that will not allow us to prepare properly for a match that's upcoming, or hey, we you know, I was a little bit too lighthearted about this, and I think I lost their focus because I was being over the top about, hey, making sure that there was joy in the room. And I think I would know the balance. I think I had enough self-awareness to go, hey, there's a difference between what we're doing could potentially cost us a match, you know, cost us hey, it's 22, but and boy, we didn't focus well enough on these things in practice because I was trying to be too lighthearted, and we slid into home plate and fumbled the ball, and we lost the match. You know, I would hate for that to be the reason there, and I don't think it would be, but I would hate for that to be it. Yeah, I think there's a fear in that for me.
Can I share maybe an observation that I'm having coming up for myself right now?
Please.
Here? And I could be wrong in this, but what I kind of hear with you coaches, like, you want to be more joyful this year. You have an idea, you have a vision of what that looks like, you know, when it comes to smiles, high fives, energy, excitement.
Yeah.
speaking the belief into even your systems and tactical, like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, this is going to be the thing that takes us. And yet the hardest thing in that, being joyful, one of the hardest things is you have this belief that is to be joyful, to be a lighthearted. It means to not take things seriously. Right. And so there's one thing in belief in there is like, well, if I'm joyful, lighthearted, like if I'm summer camp coach, I'm not taking what I'm being asked to do seriously, right? This responsibility with this team, and it could cost us big time, right? There's this other belief in there that, so there's a bit of like either or belief in that.
No.
And then there's this other belief that if I am lighthearted, if I am joyful, it's silly, you don't even like saying that word silly at times, right? But I think there's maybe like it equals that. Like if I'm joyful, if I'm lighthearted, then I am silly. And silliness leads to a lack of success or people not taking me seriously, right? And those two beliefs of joyfulness and lighthearted equals silly. Like you don't want to be a silly coach. I don't think anybody wants to be a silly coach or be viewed as a silly coach, right? So there's that, as well as to go down this path of joyful and lighthearted could really cost you the success that you've had. I don't know, those two beliefs, how do those resonate for you?
Yeah, I'm processing as you're saying it that there's the line between, hey, where do I want to be at to bring this joy, to bring this level of lightheartedness, and I think I fully agree with you. I don't think anyone that is serious in their coaching endeavors is saying, hey, I just want to be that silly coach that walks in with clown shoes and the red nose on, and that's not what you're saying, and I know that's not what I'm saying. And I just there's a concept that I'm thinking about that is I want to create an environment where athletes can thrive. I want to create an environment where I can, selfishly. I know that's a little bit funky to say, but like I want to thrive too. Like I want to be a great coach, and I feel like every year as I push my team, I'm growing and I'm getting better, and I'm learning and I'm reading and I'm listening, and I'm trying to take in as much as I can to provide my team the best possible experience. And it gets really, really serious for me. It gets heavier as seasons go on, and so there's a summer camp that happens, mid-July, that that is a different version of me. There's no doubt. I'm well aware of that. Now, when we get into the week 3 of conference play, can I still have that same level of passion that comes from having joy? And I think when you lose the joy, you probably lose the passion a little bit. Like it becomes very like, hey, this is more of a have to do thing, as opposed to, hey, I get to show up every day for these 17, amazing, incredibly young, powerful young women that play this sport that I love. And just thinking about that and saying it out loud makes me go, yeah, this is going to be awesome. We're going to make this a ton of fun. And this is going to be,
Say what out loud? Say that again for me. You just said saying it aloud for you means something there. I get to coach these.
Yeah, I think you coach, and whether it's depending on the year, 16 to 18, powerful, confident, strong young women that show up into your gym to play volleyball. Like this is awesome. This is why I got into coaching. I wanted to coach and I wanted to help players, and I wanted to share my love for this game with others, and that's really what got me into it. And it's taken me all over the world, and it's taken me all over the country, and so there's a level of like, hey, that's really cool. And I've lived a really cool experience because I've had really cool experiences in my life because of volleyball. And maybe cool isn't the best word, because it's impactful. It's powerful experiences because of volleyball, and I want to share that same. I want to light that fire for them. Or keep that fire lit, if that's what it is. But when I think of it that way, that makes me think, hey, there's a level of responsibility I have to keep joy going for myself and for them. As I say this, as I learn and I'm listening and I'm talking with you, it makes me think, hey, it's not a question of if I'm going to do this. It's just, hey, we're going to do this. Like, hey, we're gonna try to find ways to explore the joy, to explore making this a really, really uniquely lighthearted, fun environment that is powerful, and that doesn't mean that it has to be silly, but that also doesn't mean it has to feel like it's a have to, and it's a get to, it's I'm compelled to, it's an I love to do these things.
when you say these things, like I get to coach these 16 to 18 purple, when you say all these things that you've been saying here the last few minutes, like what is the feeling you have right now as you say those things? What do you feel right now?
Yeah, it's maybe a little more motivated, maybe a little more inspired by it. Like just there's a little bit more of a pull to it as opposed to a push away. Like there's more of a pull. Like, hey, let's go, let's dive in, let's get after it. And I think that is probably what comes with the alignment of the joy that I'm looking for from that.
Yeah. And so there's something in a lot of times in coaching, one of the tools I often use is something called the thinking path. And so a lot of times when we want to make changes in our life, we want to make changes, whatever, in our coaching or leadership, like I want to be more joyful. We look at, okay, what are all the things I need to do? You know, like as you even just kind of filled out in the pre-call questionnaire, you might say like, oh, like what are the tools, the tips, you know, like, do I need to meditate more? Do I need to go for more walks? Do I need to put my phone away? And these things are all very helpful behaviors that sometimes like, it's like, okay, what do I need to do, stop doing to be more joyful, right? Like we look at that. And yet I'm so much more interested, especially in these early calls of like, what do I need to believe to be true about myself and the world to be more joyful? And so when you think about potentially these limiting beliefs of joyful, lighthearted equals silly, and you know, if I'm more joyful and lighthearted and don't take things enough seriously enough, we could lose and, you know, run the program into the ground. Like if those being beliefs that possibly limit joy for you and become obstacles, what might be a new belief that you could take on this year that could help you to be more joyful? What do you need a belief about yourself?
Yeah, that maybe me at my best is exploring and diving into creative ways to bring the joy, to creative ways to bring the enthusiasm and the excitement that is what I get to call my career and get to call my life's work so far. You know, I this is all I've known. I graduated college and got right into this career path, and so I think what I need to believe, or what I might be throwing my words on that, but what I need to believe is that there is me at my best, and me at my best could be just a little bit further behind that door that I haven't really opened up a ton. That is the joy. That is the finding the ways to bring a little bit more lightheartedness to what it is that we're doing. That hey, like I said before, I do think the wins and losses they do happen. Like whether we're super silly at practice or we're super, you know, like whether we're on either extreme of all this stuff, they're going to happen. And I think that's something I just have to accept and get past this idea that, hey, if we don't do it the way that we've done it the years that we were at our best, it's still going to be okay. And there's still going to be a high level of training environment, and there's going to be a high level of accountability for our athletes and mentorship from our coaches to our athletes. But we can do that in ways that are a little bit, that bring more joy, that bring a little more fun to what it is that we're doing. That I think will help the program from the freshman athlete that just arrived here on campus to myself as the head coach of the team. Like I think it helps everybody. I think it's all encompassing. So I think I need to believe that. I think that would be helpful for me to believe that we can do this in a slightly different way and still achieve the goal, which is to be at our best.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hearing two beliefs in there. One is like I need to believe me at my best is lighthearted, is joyful, right?
I think so.
Not, you know, head down, super serious tactical systems coach, right?
Yeah.
And there's also this other belief you're starting to explore, which is success can come through this new way of being with my team. It doesn't mean I don't need to be serious tactics guy all the time for us to be successful. Yeah,
I think so. I think and with that is a little bit of discomfort for me. Just as I've said earlier,
yeah.
Like I think there's a little bit of discomfort, and I think there's a concept that I know you guys talk a lot about is hey, we can't ask our athletes to change if we're not willing to change. We can't ask our athletes to do things that we're not willing to do. And so I think if that's not if, I know that is something that's important to me. And I wanted this, the reason why I was so fired up for this call was, hey, I want to explore some of these things as I head into a season. And so I think there's a little bit of work on my end. Okay, what is that actually going to look like for me? How can I sustain that over the course of a 4-month season? The joyousness, the fun, the lightheartedness. What are some different ways that I can implement things around that to create that space to allow me to be at my best and for my team to be at their best.
Yeah, no, I love it, Coach. I think Yeah, this whole idea of new beliefs around your best and you wanting to explore the door. You're willing to go explore the door. So what's one or two things that actions you could take after this call, moving forward from this call, that would help you to more explore that door of this lighthearted, joyful coach?
Yeah, I think one of the things right away that comes to mind is I want to implement some different things in practice. Maybe it's before we start, we're gonna pick on a player or two to share. Hey, what is the highlight of their day? Just getting more. We call it a wow. It's a win of the week. And so really our athletes brought this to us and, hey, can we do this in our individual video meetings? Can we have a win of the week? And I wonder if we could share more of those things and just have our teams being a little bit more vulnerable and share a little bit of space in that, and coaches too. Hey, what's something that was really exciting today? What's a win that you had for today that before you even got to practice? I think there's an idea that we've in a summer camp, we start each morning with a dance, like a big group dance. So imagine a couple hundred, maybe 150, 200 athletes on either, side of the gym doing a fun dance, right? And like, I don't know, maybe that's not every day, that can kind of get stale, but maybe it's once a week, we're going to do a fun dance. And I do it too, and I look silly and I'm out there doing a country line dance or something that my team's teaching me, TikTok dance or whatever. And so I think that could be fun. I think just exploring some of those ideas would be something right away. And then I do think, I've got a great coaching staff that are very connected and they're very aligned to our goals, and they're ready, that they want to give to the program. So I wonder if, I would like to include them too in that, and maybe share, that I've never shared that with them, what I've shared with you today. Just this idea of like, hey, how is it that I want to show up to be at my best? And I know it's not all about me, but it is up to me to create these environments. But I'm well aware that it's not all about me. I would, and I think it's important for them to know. I think it's important to know, hey, this is something that the coach is talking about, and it's on his heart, it's on his mind to bring the best version of him. He wants to make sure that this season there's more ways that we show up with joy. There's more ways that we show up with this, and it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable for them, because I think they're like, oh, he's going from tactics and systems and all this stuff to trying to find the truth. So I think it'd be cool to involve them. I think it'd be really powerful.
Yeah, I think it's really important to do that. I mean, what I'm hearing is potentially some new traditions in practice, whether it's the wow every day, win of the week, which I love that, or the dance. I love bringing something from the summer camp tradition into the season. I think that's fantastic. And then sharing your improvement goal around being more joyful and bringing and integrating that with your coaching staff, I think is fantastic. Can I maybe throw out a few other potential ideas that you can just maybe mull over as well too? I mean, I think sharing that improvement goal with your team as well too is something that I often encourage coaches. Hey, this is what I'm working at. Just because like all of a sudden you show up and you're like incorporating a dance, or you're doing different things, or you're a little bit more lighthearted, and you're a little bit like that could be a little bit maybe unnerving for some players. Some people are like, well, does coach not care? Does coach think is he throwing the towel? But like, or like if they like it, like it helps them to understand like, okay, hey, he's exploring this door of more joy, and how can we support him in that? Right. Well, one way that coaches or players can really support them is probably by not getting silly themselves. Right. Like I think that's one of our big fears. And we had something we had time to explore today, but like sometimes we fear if I'm the lighthearted one, then everybody else will get super silly. Right. Like, so that's something that we could explore potentially if there was a future call, right? Is like how you work through that type of thing to navigate. I think there's also just the importance of self mantras, coach. I don't know where it's, you put it on a mirror, you put it on your phone, you put it on, it's something you say to yourself every time you walk into practice, but you start to retrain those beliefs, right? So like, I think you talked about awareness today. We uncovered some beliefs around like, oh, I need to be serious because we just lost 2 games and we got to get them locked in, or whatever it is. You're in a coaching, staff meeting, and you guys are getting super, super tactical and debating for 2 hours, a 30-minute drill, things like that. Okay, trying to be more aware in those moments of those beliefs that are coming up when they're coming back, but it's also, so maybe some sort of mindfulness is always great for that, but it's also retraining the beliefs. And things that I would say are, like I heard you say earlier, which is we're going to make this joyful, or I get to coach these 16 to 18 powerful, strong women, right? This is why I got into coaching, right? I like even this thing you just talked about, I'm better because of it. Like you want every athlete to say that. Like what about to even say that to yourself? Like, I'm better because of it. Like this coaching, and a lot of times it's like coaching, or I'm going to be great at coaching. I'm going to be great at parenting. It's like, how can these things actually be mutually beneficial, right? Like I'm a great parent because of coaching. I'm a great coach because of parenting. And there's so much more to explore in that. But I would just say, like, it's not just your athletes are better because of it. We're better because of this shared experience, this journey we're on. So trying to find some mantras in that. And you know what? I know you don't want to put on the clown mask and shoes, but maybe it is one day you're dressed up as a clown and come and practice. I don't know. I always remember that story of Bill Walsh with the 49ers, and they're going to the Super Bowl and they get there, and Bill Walsh dresses up as the bag man and tries to take John Elway's bag, and John Elway like tries to tackle him. He's like, don't take my bag, like, and then realizes it's Coach Walsh, so like I think of like, maybe it is one day that you are dressed as a clown. I don't know, but like, I love that you're willing to go out there and explore, man.
Well, thank you. No, that I really like that. I'm thinking of mantras right now as you're saying that. Hey, what would really resonate for me? And you're right. You're absolutely right. Not only do I want them to say they're better for it, but I want to be. I know I'm better for it. And so that was fantastic.
Absolutely. What are you walking away with today out of our call and our time together?
I think the number one thing is I want to deeply explore how I can bring that joy so that it's not just a summer camp vibe. I know we hit that randomly, and then obviously that became a focal point is hey, at my best when I walk into that gym during summer camp, there's definitely a vibe, there's an energy, there's an excitement, there's an enthusiasm for the day that I don't want to lose sight of in November when we're trying to figure out, hey, are we making playoffs? Hey, we're showing up whether or not that's in the picture or not. We're showing up to bring this experience as powerful experience as we can. And I think one of the ways that we do that is showing up with joy and allowing the players to have that same joy with us. And so that's sticking out to me if how I can do that with mantras, or hey, maybe I'm dressing up one day or whatever it is, the team dance, or sharing I feel like there's a lot for me to take some notes on as soon as we wrap to make sure this all gets in the right place.
Yeah, well, I love it, and I'm sure you'll figure out some other ways to do that too with the family. Maybe you got a family dance to do this morning as you guys get going here. So
that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
JP, thank you so much.
Okay, so that's it for the coaching call with John. I mean, there's so much that I could talk about here, but I know this has been a long one. So anyways, just for context, when I started coaching engagement with any leader, we set objectives. Today, John and I just set an objective for the call. However, if I was to continue working with John, that might be one of the main objectives for the entire coaching engagement, which could last like 6 months to a year of typically like bi-weekly calls. Now, our work would primarily focus on those key, core objectives. It's usually not too many of those. And that would be, in his case, potentially helping him to find that joy in coaching, and would be supporting him in that. And it would kind of evolve and adapt over time as inevitably new challenges would come up for him as a leader. Anyways, if you've lasted this long and made it to the end of the episode, well done. Congrats to you. And possibly developing these skills of powerful questions, deep listening and holding space is really important to you and is of interest to you. So you should definitely consider, if that's the case, applying for the TOC retreat, Cultivating Leadership Through the Power of Coaching. Like I said, it's an incredibly relaxing and recharging weekend. And at the same time, you get to learn how to coach and be coached. And so you can apply at tocculture.com/retreat. There'll be a link in the details of this episode. As well, if you're interested in one-to-one coaching, you can fill out an application for that. We'll put a link to that in the details of this episode. And you can email me at jp@tocculture.com with any questions that you might have. Thanks again for listening in to the Coaching Culture Podcast.